Today we'll be going over the Kitsap modular planter walls, manufactured in aluminum and weathering steel. It has become increasingly popular to design using these metal planter walls, really being able to bring your own vision to life. They're Lincoln logs that you're able to place down, and we'll be able to manufacture them for you. Starting off, a little bit about Tournesol and green screen. Tournesol has been around for about 30 years, being the leading manufacturer of outdoor commercial pots and planters, screens, trellises, and site furnishing. All of our products are designed and manufactured within North America. The product we're talking about today, the Kitsap modular planter walls, is manufactured and engineered in Port Orchard, Washington, about an hour west of Seattle. We have 13 engineers on staff who are here to help throughout the process in terms of implementing your design, figuring out the best way forward while working on certain projects. A little bit about Kitsap. So as I mentioned, Kitsap is a modular planter wall system with nearly unlimited capabilities. We'll go through and talk a little bit about the parameters that we set on the design, but those are things that you and I can talk about and have a conversation as to whether or not it is feasible. Here, the photo taken is a great project we did in my hometown now of Boston, Massachusetts, on a healthcare building where patients and nurses and doctors alike are able to spend time outdoors and be able to walk around while in the hospital itself. To get started dealing with Kitsap, what are a couple things we can look at? First of all of our products have resources and CAD models within our website itself for you to be able to download and start designing with almost immediately. From there, you'll be able to take your 90-degree corners, your straight walls, and place them throughout the project, allowing you to continue working on Kitsap without employing one of us. But please make sure to reach out to your local representative, who will be more than happy to help and aid in the design and implementation of Kitsap. We start from our plans using your drawings to be able to design and create your vision. The Kitsap kit of parts, as I mentioned, when we talk about nearly unlimited capabilities, there's a lot that we can talk about, starting with a couple of the smaller details, such as an edge detail with lip or an edge detail without lip. Really comes down to your focus, your design intent, whether or not you're looking for that rolled top, allowing for it to be strengthened by that roll. If we're doing edge detail with no lip, we're going to be looking at putting a little bit of a support bar just to take some more deflection off the wall. Once again, all of these products have gone through FEA analysis, so your finite element analysis, ensuring our wall deflection and stability of the planter itself. You can see on the left-hand side a little bit of the kit of parts I was talking about from those CAD model details. We can see those rounded sides, the 90-degree corners, those flat walls, as well as where we're able to create those jut-ins, those two 90-degree corners right next to each other, allowing for you to create space within the planter itself, whether that be for a bench, a grill, whatever you want to design it for. Next, we'll talk about base options. Base options are going to be the most important thing when we start designing with Kitsap and really thinking about the space that we're utilizing and how we want to utilize it. There are two separate base options, anchored and freestanding. Our anchored Kitsap is a planter wall section that needs to be anchored into either a concrete curb or a concrete slab. So we think about the way that if we're up on structure and we have a concrete slab already poured, are we able to anchor down through it? Oftentimes it requires some conversation between architects, landscape architects, the manufacturer ourselves, waterproofing to ensure that everything we are doing is up to standard and up to code. A lot of conversation being had about where are we able to anchor it to and what kind of concrete footing is necessary. Usually the base of the anchored Kitsap is going to be around 9 to 12 inches. We often recommend that the curb being poured is usually around 12 to 14 inches, allowing for a little bit of room of maneuvering once we get on site. The important thing to note is that anchored kitsap is necessary when thinking about cantilevering benches, also known as our Wally bench, off the side of the kitsap. This is going to be our main requirement when thinking about those cantilevered benches and one of the big uses of anchored kitsap. Freestanding, on the other hand, allows for more flexibility in where we're able to use it. If we're looking at putting something up on structure and waterproofing and is a concern or an issue during the design process, freestanding allows for you to be able to put the kitsap up on structure and on grade without needing it to be anchored to concrete. So what we usually recommend at Tournesol is being able to obviously fully support the bottom of the structure, as well as being able to use a lag screw through the back. I always describe it as extra credit given to you by your teacher. They say it's recommended, and recommended in that case means you should probably do it. It just helps during the freeze-thaw cycle to ensure that we have no maneuverability of the Kitsap system during the winter. We recommend it sit on top of some sort of structural foam and or concrete that allows for it to be pinned down. And the one thing that you'll notice is the height of the kitsap and the base of the kitsap are going to be the same. If you have a 32-inch wall, that base of the kitsap is going to be 32 inches. 46, 46, 12, and 12. Those are the main two differences between your anchored and freestanding. Your advisors will be more than happy to help you in this conversation to figure out which one might be right for your site. Now we'll go into a little bit of the design parameters. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, there are unlimited options. There are some things that we do need to think about when manufacturing with Kitsap and designing. One thing is that the wall heights can change in elevation from 6 inches up to 48. So you're able to do a consistent slope up from that 6 to 48, or be able to play off between the two of them. We can go a little bit taller. Don't tell anyone I told you that, but we look at how we are able to help you in your projects. Same thing with curves. Specify any arc with a radius of greater than 12 inches. At Tournesol, we don't weld our pieces together. We use a brake press in our facility in Port Orchard, Washington that actually bends the pieces themselves. Similar to if you think about bending something to make it stronger, if we overbend it, it actually creates a weaker part within the joint. That's why our corners, we can specify a degree, anything of greater or less than 30 degrees. Sorry, nothing less than 30 degrees, everything greater than 30 degrees. And those are parameters that we recommend you keep in mind when manufacturing and when designing using Kitsap. Here are a couple different photos from an installation in San Francisco down on Market Street. You'll see that this is a weathering steel project using a Wally bench with those tight corners. Here we're going to have anchored Kitsap, as we see, because of the Wally bench. And another interesting thing of note here is the accessory light pockets that we're able to add into the Kitsap wall itself to be used for egress and lighting around this roof space. This is another great photo from that project using that arc wall and being able to create this really awesome sitting area within the planter itself. One thing to keep of note here is when we are doing an arc wall bench, we're going to end up using piano key style. This wood is a thermally modified oak, which is going to be the standard for majority of Tournesol products. But we do have Western red cedar as well in terms of woods that we have the opportunity and ability to use. The benches and drink rails with an additional interior support, Kitsap can be modified to accommodate the load bearing requirements for a cantilevered bench or drink rail. Once again, this is kind of enforcing the idea of the ability to cantilever a bench or a drink rail off of Kitsap using that anchored Kitsap. Here's another great project that we did in Camperdown. We referred to it as the Camperdown project in Greenville, Carolina. And as you can see here, this was a little bit more of a custom project. So Obviously, this is on grade instead of on structure, which is a really great use of Kitsap, and being able to create these really large bench areas surrounding that planter wall itself. So more so of the planter being the main focus of this project, the landscape architects came to us with this idea of creating this really large metal planter with a bench sitting around that top throughout the outside. You'll see here a little bit of concrete that allows for us to adjust for that slope going throughout this site and allowing for that Kitsap to stay flat. That is the one thing that we often recommend and have conversations about. It's a lot easier to create a difference in height at the top lip than at the bottom. If we're able to stay flat down at the bottom of the project and the site, that makes the designing of Kitsap a decent amount easier for us and for you. I pointed out a little bit of the accessory pockets on that last project. Here you'll see another project in San Francisco using those accessory pockets as well as the Wally benches. An interesting thing to note here as well is the use of lights sitting underneath the bench instead of only, as well as being integrated into the planter itself. One of my favorite uses is one time we had a client come to us and ask for subwoofers to be put within the planter itself. Why exactly? No one really knows, but we have the ability to take the project and be able to implement those subwoofers within the planters themselves. It goes for lights, electrical pockets, USB outlets, really anything you want. We have a list of pre-engineered lights that we'll be able to share with you that we know will fit within our system itself. If it's a light that we have not used before, the only thing we ask is that you are able to send us a sample of it that we're able to use. Here's an interesting use of the Kitsap. As I mentioned, you'll be able to see the electrical outlet there as part of that accessory pocket, but also the way that we're able to integrate benches in multiple ways. I've spoken and you've seen about the cantilevered bench. Here we have an offset bench that's able to sit up at the level of the Kitsap wall itself and be able to almost hang back over the soil a little bit more, really integrating that bench into the planter itself. When we talk about Kitsap, we're often looking at open, closed, or nested shapes. So we're able to create entire self-containing planter walls, or being able to attach a Kitsap wall between the building, allowing for the soil to hit the parapet wall or the building itself, meaning that we just have a front one. And here we see a nested shape, which is an interesting idea, right? Being able to put those planters within other planters. In this case, we're going to be looking at most likely an anchored Kitsap. And it's a great way to be able to protect screen building equipment and really create varying levels aesthetically that create some intrigue within the planters that help bring it and make it unique. Here's a wider range photo of that same project, and as you can see here, being able to build up on the steps next to it, creating those different levels and varying levels of the Kitsap product itself, really creating some intrigue and some different looks within the planter. Kitsap materials. This is where we talk mainly about aluminum. So we use a zinc-rich primer on our aluminum planters, 100% aluminum grade, meaning that if we do have some of the paint accidentally get chipped off during installation or overall use, even if we're sitting next to Southie in Boston, we're not too worried about the material itself in terms of rust. It's 100% recyclable and a very lightweight product as well. When we're looking at weathering steel and pre-weathered steel, mainly the weathered steel, so we're able to either pre-weather that in the facility, so when the owner looks at the project, they already see that orange color instead of that more natural steel that would usually arrive on site, No finishing or upkeep needed. It always comes in that beautiful orange and red color. One thing that we do recommend is just to keep in mind the idea of a little bit of that bleeding that comes with the weathered steel, and whether that means put a little bit of drainage rock around the side of your planter, or even leave a 1/4 inch gap between the planter itself and the paver, just to ensure we have no seepage onto those beautiful pavers. Base requirements, as I mentioned, it makes life a lot easier when we're able to keep a flat bottom. That's really the one thing that we need to ensure when manufacturing and when designing with Kitsap, is that it must be flat and level, and whether that means we're able to shim it using concrete and pouring concrete to keep it flat, or even if it is on a flat structure that is sloping, that is okay, as long as we have the ability to keep it flat and level. Some installation examples. So here you'll see the cantilever bench mounting system. So that's going to be our anchored Kitsap with the Wally bench installed and how it is going to work. All of the bolts that are needed to put the Wally bench within the Kitsap, as well as connect the different walls to each other, will be sent by Tournesol Siteworks. Those are all going to be stainless steel nut and bolts. The anchor is going to be up to the contractor depending on the different site conditions. One thing you'll notice here as well that we recommend for all of the Kitsap planters is being able to use drainage mat along the side of the wall running down to the bottom. This ensures that we have no standing water sitting pressed up against the side of the planter, and it's something that we highly recommend for all installations of Kitsap. What's included when you get the Kitsap? As I mentioned, the Kitsap part, your internal supports for those bench or drink rails, and then our stainless steel bolts, nuts, and washers. Additional supplies and tools needed. That's what I mentioned in terms of making sure that your contractor has an understanding of what is coming and how to install it. So you'll see here a recommendation for waterproof silicone sealant or adhesive that sits in between the walls when they get connected, ensuring that we have no water seepage where these parts connect with each other. The anchors or lag screws for mounting itself, drainage mat to sit against the front wall, and a drill to connect the parts themselves. Kitsap preparation. The Kitsap should be anchored to concrete or freestanding on a structural foam concrete slab. The footing must be level, about give or take plus or minus 1/8 of an inch per linear foot, and flat over the entire length of the wall assembly. Drainage required, maybe inside the Kitsap wall via the curb or a slab, ensuring that we have a large area down at the bottom. Tends to happen when you have Kitsap and get larger, there is no bottom to these planters. Something to keep in mind, right? We're not putting drainage holes at the bottom because it will be an open system. The kit of parts usually ranges from 25 to 270 pounds, really depending on what size wall we are getting. Usually when a Kitsap is shipped and manufactured, a corner piece, a 90-degree angle, is going to be 2 feet by 2 feet, so a 4-foot section. A straight wall section may be closer to 7 feet long, 8 feet long, depending on the overall size and design of the project. Delivered on pallets, it should not be double stacked, just to ensure that we have no damage during the installation of the process, the Kitsap itself. All of the pallets and parts will be labeled to ensure that everything is going to fit and be put together as designed. All of the Kitsap projects are put together and dry fitted within the Tournesol facility to ensure that what we are sending to you and to the contractor is as is designed and ready to be installed and installed properly. Here's a quick photo of what it would look like when it arrives. As you can tell, this is going to be a freestanding planter, not an anchored planter. Otherwise, this bottom would just be about 9 to 10 inches. Instead, we have the overall height of the project, of the Kitsap, mirrored to the base of it as well. You'll see where we're able to allow electrical lines to run through the Kitsap if we need to put lights inside, or if we're talking about those electrical outlets, as well as to help in terms of drainage as the water runs through where these flanges meet. And here you'll see the bolts along the right hand side here that allow for the Kitsap to integrate with one another and connect with each other. This is us on site and my lovely boss here, John Denman, inspecting and ensuring that what came to site is what we're looking at and what is needed. And from there, the contractor will take it off and start assembling it together while on site. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, at the beginning of the presentation, all of these CAD models will be able to be downloaded on our website to be able to put into your Revit or whatever you may use for designing software, allowing for you to start designing without consulting a professional such as myself. But once again, if there's any questions that ever arrive, please reach out to me, reach out to the rest of my colleagues, whoever may be in your area, that we will be able to help